Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. We're very pleased to welcome members of the Boy Scout Troop number 76. We are on television today. So I do invite you up to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. And come on up. Come all the way up. Yeah, that's good.
And a word. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Boy Scouts are here for a civic badge, is that right? Civic government badge?
Citizenship in the community.
Citizenship in the community badge. Well, we're very pleased to welcome you and thanks for... How did you pick open space?
It was convenient.
4:30.
And it wasn't late in the evening.
You just thought it was riveting? Is that where?
Well, be a better subject for them, though.
I do. So we begin all our meetings, as we always do, with public audience, and we offer up to 5 minutes for any individual who wants to speak to any issue. Is there anyone who would like to speak at public audience? Seeing none, we will move on. I'm going to ask for an amendment to the agenda to add 2 items. One is an Ethel Walker Woods parking lot update from Jeff Shea and Open Space Projects update. And the second is an update from Mr. Rice on the advancement of the POCD project.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously. We will begin with the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? If there are no changes, the minutes will stand as final. If anyone does have changes to the minutes, I remind them that they will be writing the next set of minutes.
Well, I will take that risk because in line 31, as much as I would admire a trail that was 25 foods wide, I believe we're talking about a 25-foot wide.
You are correct. We will make that change. Are you going to do the minutes next time?
No.
Okay. 25-foot wide strip. Any objections to that change? Okay.
No?
Any other changes? Okay. May I have a motion to adopt the minutes with the one change of changing the word food in line 31 to foot?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay. Nice. Yes.
60 pages and the other's 186. Those are going to take forever to print.
Okay, don't print those. So this is the email you sent, Jamie, is 160 pages?
I wasn't included. You just sent it to back in December.
Yeah.
Can you just re-forward that to members of
I didn't
the
realize. I don't
open
think so.
space?
That may not be the one we're talking about.
Okay, because I found it in your emails.
Okay, so we'll have Bill resend it.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Can you copy me, Bill?
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay. We will begin. I'm going to go ahead and start, because Jeff does need to leave, with an Ethel Walker Woods update and the Betty Hudson property update in terms of open space or any other open space projects we have in the works.
So on the Ethel Walker Woods master plan, as you know, we had prioritized improvements, and the first priority that we all felt was important was the development of the trailhead over at Town Forest Park. So the first project would include basically enhancements to that trailhead, which include a new bridge, new parking facility, sprucing up the pavilion that's there in some way, shape, or form, which we haven't really determined what that is yet, and providing ADA accessibility to the trail system, at least for a portion of the trail. So those are the goals. We have engaged a consultant, Malone McBroom, who did the original master plan, to develop plans and specs for the project. They've completed the field survey, and we're in the process of developing a preliminary design right now. It's very similar to what was in the master plan, as you recall, in terms of layout and what's included in the scope. I don't have anything to show you tonight, but they are working on those, and we have a meeting scheduled for early next week to see what they have to offer to us for the project. The project will require land use approvals because its proximity to water courses. So we will need to go through a land use approval process. We're hoping to complete the design in the next 2 to 3 months and bid the project and hopefully get under construction late spring and early summer.
So just for members of the public who had expressed concern about the entrance to Ethel Walker Woods off Woodhaven, we're not talking about that. We're just talking about improvements to the existing parking lot at Town Forest.
Yeah, and the only other thing that we're developing is a master wayfinded sign plan for the entire property so that we can offer it to Eagle Scouts, and we'll have a standard sign, standard post, and locations for the signage established for the future.
Okay.
Could you just repeat again a few details? You said this is or is not regarding Woodhaven cul-de-sac?
Not Woodhaven at all.
Okay.
Because
all right.
people had concerns about this. The parking lot at Town Forest, people were comfortable with.
Okay.
So we're just starting there.
I'm sure I heard it correctly. Thank
Yep.
you.
And is there any questions on that project?
Well, I'll be interested to see how the accessibility is done, because that orange trail, as you go in there, there's a lot of roots. And somebody needs to be smarter than I am about the impact on the trees of filling or whatever it is would be done for the accessibility.
Right,
Maybe
again.
move the trail away from there altogether, I don't know, but that's, in addition to the impact on the water course, the impact on the trees, I think, needs to be thought about.
Yeah, and we don't have any details at this point. We're going to try to provide accessibility, as far as we can.
Sure.
There's limits, again, to this project in terms of funding. So certainly those details will be addressed. I'm not exactly sure where those trees are relative to the trail system. I think it's off to the right as you go over the bridge you're talking about?
Yeah, you bear a little bit to the right, and you're really stepping over the roots of all those
right.
pine trees as you go along.
Right. Yeah, we'll certainly look at that and come up with the appropriate details if in fact the project goes to that extent.
Do you have anything, you said you don't have anything today to show us, but I mean, just so that we can be aware of where you're talking, we will have something when, what's the process?
I can't tell you exactly within the next couple of months. Depends how quickly the process moves.
Couple of
and-
weeks, a couple of months?
Months.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So that, because this will be going through the land use process, this board will not have approval authority, but can certainly give recommendations. Actually, every other member, other than you and me, Helen, well, maybe not zoning, will have a approval process, or it's an 824 referral, I'm assuming, and possibly conservation. Is that right?
That's true. Yes.
Okay. So you will be in a decision-making position outside of this board. But obviously, we'll get updates because it regards this. And then Betty Hudson?
Betty Hudson, we are still waiting on our FEMA grant, so we have not advanced the project. For one reason, in that we don't want to do something that's diametrically opposed to the grant conditions, whatever they may be. So we're a little anxious on that. We're not sure what's happening. We know we've been told it's in Washington, and somehow some other agencies have gotten involved in terms of the approval of the funds, but we don't know the details. We are going to be advancing at least the survey portion for that project probably within the next month, and getting going on the preliminary work that's involved with developing the site and establishing the permitting that's going to be required for what we're going to do. So that's moving a little slower than we had hoped, but it is moving.
And the destruction, will we take down the building this spring regardless of whether we get the?
We have to make that decision. Again, we can certainly use town funds to do that. It's just going to eat into our whatever improvements we're going to propose under the first phase. So yeah, we can do that. We've been hopeful. We've been told good things that our grant was going to be approved, but the wheels of government move somewhat slower at the federal level, apparently.
And this is through FEMA?
Through FEMA,
Yeah.
yes. It's a hazard mitigation grant.
Any other questions for Jeff on that? Okay, thank you, Jeff. We appreciate your work on that. And I know you're working with Jerry as well, so
Yes,
Jerry
we are.
will be here. questions arise later in the meeting.
Great, thanks.
All right. Thanks, Jeff. Signage along the river, I think Ms. Rieger was going to come to your committee. Did that happen? How'd that go?
I came to it was a special meeting of the Park and Rec Commission in December, and the commission unanimously did approve going forward with those signs. With one condition, one of the things that they did talk about was that in the future, looking at possibly more uniform signage with regard to carry and carry out. And if we did that, then, we might, although we'd still utilize it in those areas, we may go with, from those signs to more of a uniform sign, if that were to happen. But they unanimously endorsed them, and the signs will go up in the spring, both the Sycamore Tree area and down at Curtis Park.
That's it, the two areas?
Right.
When you say that they want the signage to be more uniform, is it because each community was being left to do it on their own, design their own, rather than all communities agreeing to the uniform?
Yeah, the only thing we've gone to in some of the smaller parks, we've gone to carry in, carry out, and we just want to make sure that at some point we'd like to go to a uniform sign on that. And if we did that, that would preclude these specific signs, but there would still be signage there that would have the same message. It would just be more in sync with, compatible with signs in other parks, that's all.
So there are state standards and federal standards,
Right,
and so there is some logic, and we've discussed this many times about doing uniformity of signs so we don't have sign clutter across the valley.
Exactly. And I think the other thing we want to do, you always want to let people know that you are in a town park versus a state park or a privately owned, parcel, that was all. But no, they were completely, behind the concept, and look forward to having them. Yeah, we'll be, like I said, they'll be going up in the spring.
Great. They're going to use the nails that Don wants on the trees.
Titanium?
Preferably, yeah.
Okay, just confirming that. And then the trail connection to Onion Mountain Park, any updates on that? I'm assuming not.
Nothing to report, at this point. I'm sure we'll be having conversations in the next couple of months, always,
Time of year.
Right. Okay, then review of the water shortage ordinance. Last we left it, it was in Conservation's hand. Was wondering if we could get an update.
Yes. It has not gone back into Conservation's hands because where we understood you to leave it was that you wanted council to make comments first.
No, council was going to work with Conservation is how we...
Okay, well...
So we'll...
Council made some additions. Mm-hmm. He and I talked about that. I made some modifications as well, since it was open for discussion. And the other day, he and I agreed entirely on the draft that would go with his approval and mine to Conservation at its meeting on the 7th.
Okay. So it will go to Conservation on the 7th.
Yep.
We have, our next Board of Selectmen meeting is not on a Monday. It will be on February 15th, because Monday, I guess, is Lincoln's birthday at state holiday, so we are not permitted by law to hold meetings on state holidays. So ours will be on the 15th, even though we are open that day.
Did you say the 7th of this month? Or
Yes.
Yeah,
May?
it's 7th of this month, and so if you can get it on the Board of Selectmen agenda for February 15th, we could consider it then.
Will Mike handle that for us if we approve this at our next meeting?
Yes, just ask him to.
Will do.
Yep, because I will forget to ask him, so just... Okay, then we'll go on to an update on the Plan of Conservation and Development. I think you have the last public audience hearing session on the 14th coming up. Mm-hmm. You want to talk to us about how that's going and what you're hearing, what you're seeing?
Yeah, to date, there's been one public hearing. That was before the end of 2016. And since then, there have been 3 listening sessions that have been administered by the consultant that we've hired. Each one of them has had a specific subject. I can't remember all 3, but one of them had to do with how people would like to see the POCD reflect preserving natural resources. another one for residential development. I can't remember the third, and I'm embarrassed to say I don't know what the fourth one's going to be either, but they are components of the POCD. Okay? My understanding is that the attendance of the more recent listening sessions has been greater than the initial one. The initial one, I think I reported we had about 7 people show up, but it may have been because of the subject. So, as Lisa said, there's one last listening session. I believe that's the 14th. Okay? There was some discussion because that's Valentine's Day, and some people on the Planning Commission felt that could impact attendance, but we decided to press on.
I think it'll be very sweet.
We've also conducted an online survey, which was very well attended, with upwards of 300 people responding.
Wow.
And we're starting to see some common themes come through. And without unveiling too much, there's been a lot of conversation about the number of apartments that have been permitted and subsequently either built or starting to be built in town. So that's something we're going to have to really give some thought to, respecting the comments of our townspeople. We have a special meeting on February 7th, which is next Tuesday at 6:30, and I'm not sure what the conference room is called, but it's in the planning area upstairs.
The engineering room.
Engineering room. And that's to get a formal download and update from the consultant. As you may be aware, the Planning Commission meetings have been pretty well consumed with a number of applications, primarily the 80 Climax Road 8-30G subdivision. We had planned to reserve one meeting a month for the POCD, but we have not had that luxury because we're under time constraints to administer the applications. But that's going to ease up a little bit because we've closed the public hearing on that application last week. So now we should be able to turn our attention to the POCD. We're still on track. We always planned that if we needed to catch up a little bit, that the commission was in agreement that we would schedule special meetings. So the result of that is this first one next week.
So this special meeting will be only for the POCD review?
That's correct.
Okay, no other business?
No other business.
Jamie, because we do have some Boy Scouts here, can you, and for members of the public, since we are being filmed, what is the POCD and why do we care?
Right. The POCD stands for the Plan of Conservation and Development, and it's a guiding document that the town prepares, actually prepared by state statute. It's required, and it gives a vision to where the town should be 10 years, 20 years from any point in time. And we're required to update it a minimum of once every 10 years. So the last time the POCD was issued was in 2007. So now we're on track to update it, revise it, have the town people approve it. I think Board of Selectmen approve it too.
You know, I don't even know, because I wasn't on the board 10 years ago. Yes.
So there's quite an approval process, and it should be completed by October of this year.
So it's actually pretty exciting. I don't know if you guys are busy on Valentine's Day, but actually these listening sessions are awesome. You really do hear what people care about in terms of development. I did want to give this board an update. Mr. Rabbit, for our last Board of Selectmen meeting.
On the what?
Mr. Rabbit gave an update at our last Board of Selectmen meeting on planned and anticipated development in the town of Simsbury and what that means in terms of grand list growth and population increases. So it's a pretty in-depth analysis, and it's worth reading. I'll send you guys a link. It's also on the First Selectmen's page if anyone's interested in reading that. But it is very interesting. As for those haven't heard me say it, and you guys may not have because you probably don't watch me regularly, but at almost every meeting I've been talking about how we're going to see a dip in the grand list, which is how much money the town brings in, of about $850,000 this year from the demolition of the Hartford building. But if you read Mr. Abbott's report, you'll see that by the next year that number will be replaced, and in the next 3 to 5 years will be exceeded in terms of the planned development that's out there in terms of revenues for the town. And why that matters is those revenues pay for teacher's salary, desks, roads, police, Simsbury Farms, the library. So we're watching those numbers carefully.
Did you say Mr. Abbott's report is online? We can access it?
Yes, so it's on the First Selectman's page, which is my
First
page.
Selectman's page.
But I will also send members of this board a link to it. And it will be in my First Selectman's report coming out on the 15th. But it's worth taking a look at. Then, Helen, did you want to give any updates on your conference?
We're on track.
What is the date?
Yes, you should be saving the date, the 17th of April. It's a Monday evening. It's the Monday after, just to give you a heads up, it's the Monday after Easter. It's also the Monday after the spring vacation. So it's Monday in the evening. We're planning possibly a 6:30 meeting. And we have confirmed the co-sponsors are Simsbury Land Trust, Canton Land Trust, Farmington River Watershed Association. What else can I tell you? It will be a presentation by someone from Highstead and a Q&A, and that's about it, I'll tell you right now. Just what I've also done is ask the Canton Land Trust is going to send out the save the date message, so that when we finalize we're going to put together a small committee to sort of sit down and decide how we're going to send out a flyer or construct the message, the announcement. And that probably, now that I'm back in town, maybe another week or so, we can do that. I've talked with the vice chair of the Avon Land Trust that I know very well, and they're saving the date so they can participate. I'm waiting to hear back from the Farmington Land Trust. Granby Land Trust has already responded.
Is the Granby Land Trust coming?
They to save the date, and so that they've just sort of been precluded to that. So that's what I can tell you from now.
And again, for the Boy Scouts who may not know what the purpose of this is.
This is a forum that we are putting together to have an opportunity to hear someone who is a forest ecologist. And this subject is important to us because we have so much forest land in Simsbury that is preserved, conserved, and we're trying to be sure that we know how to take care of it and how to address the needs of the forest land. And the reason why we're involving other communities is that forest land doesn't have a boundary. It's just, it moves over boundaries. And so we need to be in concert, be together in how we're thinking about how we are going to consider the care for these forest lands. And that's going to be on the 17th. It'll be open to the public, and if you're interested in coming to learn something a little more than what you might know about what you do in the forest and how you coexist with nature and so forth, you're welcome to come. It's going to be at the library. It will be announced. I think it's going to be 6:30, but that hasn't been put into stone yet, on the evening of April 17th. And just keep your eyes open for and ears open for the announcement. We can be sure to send you one. How about that? How about if I send you an announcement, okay? So, you have any questions? Okay. The fact that you're in the woods as much as you are, should be of some interest to you.
Well, thank you for organizing that, Helen. And once you do have something to get out, we'd be happy to put it out through town communications as well.
Right, and there will be no cost from the speaker.
thank you. Even better.
So it's coming along. It's good.
Well, thank you. We appreciate your efforts on
No,
that. Are there
it's
any
my
updates
pleasure.
from zoning? You want to tell us what's going on?
It's been pretty quiet for the last month.
It's about time.
No, we had holidays that interfered, so we didn't have meetings. So there were no new applications until this coming week. We will have two new applications, but they're not
Big ones.
big deals. They're relatively administrative things.
Okay, great. And do you have any other updates from conservation in terms of,
We had a weather cancellation last time, so we've had some continuing business, but there's not a lot going on. I wonder, Lisa, if there's anything to be said about the possible new trail connection item that was on.
so Jerry, I had asked him for an update. He said at this point, oh, you mean at,
Shadowbrook?
Chatterbrook, yeah.
No, I don't have any information on that.
You were going to look into whether the fund could pay the surveyor, and Jerry was going to, according to the minutes, was going to look into what the planning and engineering departments thought about it.
Okay, so we had that.
I'm sorry, can I ask a question about that? That's the one where it came around a neighborhood.
Yes, Westledge.
Have the neighbors been involved yet, or?
No.
Nothing's happened
Nothing.
yet. No.
So we have not gotten to that. I will tell you, it is not likely we're going to get to it during the month of February because we're doing budget stuff, but we should be able to. Jerry, can you put that on the list to get an evaluation of that done before our next open space, which I don't think is in February anyway.
I believe that's correct.
So we'll have some time to get that. Can you put that on the list of things to do? All right, thank you. So the only update I have is we're waiting on the governor's budget, which is coming out on Tuesday, and that will impact a lot of everyone's priorities. We are anticipating major cuts. We've gotten lots of indicators that that is coming to municipalities. And so we'll be looking at, it's not a matter of if we're going to get cut, it's really a matter of how much we're going to get cut. And so we're waiting on that, and that will sort of inform our budget and what we're able to do. So, but every municipality is facing this challenge this year. So this is a time to stay involved. If you have questions or priorities, let us know, because we're going to be making tough choices with limited dollars. And that's all I have. All right.
So I gave my piece for planning,
Yes.
more or less, but I have a question.
Yes.
Was there an item on the ballot in the fall regarding the composition of this committee?
Yes.
And I don't remember the results.
The results were they did agree to increase it, and I believe by 2 members. Do you remember?
That's correct.
Yes. And so that will not begin until December of next year.
Oh, so when the new town charter goes
Yes.
into effect?
Yes.
Good. Okay.
So we do have some time to figure that out. But you're right to raise it, because this board should give some insight as to what sort of expertise we might value on this board. I mean, we do have a third of our land is forest, so someone with a forest background might be helpful to us. But just so start thinking along the lines as to.
Well, that was the purpose in initiating the opportunity to have that happen.
So we won't actually decide that. The Board of Selectmen will decide that, but this board can make a very strong recommendation as to the qualifications we feel would be advantageous to this board. So,
Okay. Thank you.
all right. Any other business before the board? So I'm sorry, Judy and John, you guys came right as we're ending, but still happy to see you. All right, with that,
Move adjourn.
Second.
all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone, and thanks for coming. You guys picked the perfect meeting. This is the shortest meeting ever.
Check.
And we hope you come back, or if you do want to go to Helen's thing.
But you know, we're going to put our hook into you, right? Maybe a short meeting, but we'll
And when
get you to come back.
and when you get to Eagle Scout projects, you heard that Jerry is getting one all lined up for someone who needs one. So,
Now, I get confused, 76 and 176. Where do you go through? Okay, that's the one my